Hi, everyone, and welcome to another podcast episode of Galit Speaks. I am really, really excited for today and super excited to introduce you to Katharina Hellmann. She is a certified life coach and certified climate change coach who helps eco-conscious people turn climate change anxiety into empowered, effective climate action, slash their carbon footprint, and live more sustainably without having to give up what they really love in their lives. Thank
Yeah,
you so
hi.
much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this topic because it just, I mean, we all have to live on this earth. And so this is important for us all. But also, we were chatting a little bit during the break before this. And I just found out that you're a scuba diver and we have that in common. So I feel like the more that people interact with nature, the more they become aware and the more that they want to make sure that it's available for the next generations. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Hi,
Yeah.
everyone.
So I'm curious, how did you start this journey?
Um, well, for me, I mean, I've always been interested in personal development and coaching and that kind of thing. And for me, my personal, like, let's say, wake up moment was in 2017, which or 2018 rather, which was a year after I'd gotten married, and my husband and I, we were talking and planning our family. And then in that year of 2018, I came across this IPCC report, which is this report from the International Climate Change Panel of the United Nations, which is, I believe, also the report that sparked Greta Thunberg and Fridays for Future with the message that we as humanity have 12 years left to get our act together on fighting climate change before there are going to be irreversible breaking points or sort of thresholds achieved. And that for me was like the moment where I started to actually question everything, question having kids, like fulfilling this dream of mine of having a kid and having a family. Like, I was questioning my job. Was I doing enough to help prevent that? And yeah, and it was also the beginning of my own journey to eco anxiety and to to like go into that deep dark hole of fear and despair and hopelessness around what the future of humanity on this planet was going to be. And I um, did a lot of searching for things that could help me in that situation, therapy and all sorts of things. And it wasn't until I came across that type of coaching that I'm now certified in, that helped me understand where my emotions are actually coming from, what is causing them, how can I deal with them, what can I do about them, how can I turn them into not something that is in control of me, but of something that I can actually get a grip on and control myself, and also like turn into something that helps me achieve my goals in life. And I found these tools so groundbreaking and so mind-blowing that I decided to become a coach just for the purpose of being able to teach that to others, what I'd been able to do, because this was what helped me get out of this black hole. And from there, it wasn't really that big of a step to focus on the climate sphere, because I had the feeling from my own journey, from my own experience, that there aren't a lot of people out there that actually are talking about climate change as a mental health problem. It's of course this huge problem around like food. Is our food chains going to be sustainable? It's about carbon emissions. It's about changing a lifestyle and all like these external environmental catastrophes that we are foreseeing. But I think it's only become recent that people have seen or are seeing, starting to see climate change as a mental health issue as well. And so it's still a very new concept, I believe. And in fact, this climate change coaching advanced certification that I did, it's still a very new concept to even offer that. I think I was the 70th person in the world that did it. So I think it's
Wow.
still a very new niche. And interestingly enough, all the other people from that certification training are established coaches in various other areas like career and business coaches and money coaches and time coaches and whatever, nutrition, health. And they wanted to, kind of bring climate change into their established practices. And I'm starting from scratch in that niche, or started from scratch in that niche. So I'm in a way sort of feeling a little bit like a pioneer in that I'm focusing exclusively on the climate change sphere from this sort of emotional angle. Yeah. So that's what got me started, my own experience, my own journey, really.
Yeah, and I identify with that so much because it's almost so overwhelming that you have to like tune out,
Yeah.
because if you would really like, but that's like the worst thing to do, right? Because if you really focus on it, it's devastating what could happen. And it's like, why? I mean, I've had these thoughts of like, why plan a future if the
Yeah.
future is not going to look so great? And I know that from, like wanting to have a future and feeling this way,
Yeah.
you have to also be able to continue your life and look forward to your goals, and you can't let it consume you. So what are, what are the different types of things that if someone's just starting to think about, how do they start?
Well, like let's say the typical 3 pillars of topics, let's say, that I'm identifying, or that I have identified from my clients so far, is that it really centers around emotions, emotional management, just being able to sort of get off this emotional roller coaster around climate change, and to actually get a life back, if you want, emotionally, to not, kind of get out of that black hole of doom and gloom.
Yeah.
The second element that I'm seeing a lot of people struggle with is kind of this totally, like, they do want to do something, they want to find something to help, but they don't really know what to do, how to do that, or life gets in the way, and maybe there are obligations to family and careers that are sort of standing in, or perceived to be standing in the way of getting some sort of climate action or sustainable living or carbon footprint reduction measures like actually on the ground. So the action part of things is a big issue to talk about in the sphere of climate change coaching. And the third element that I'm seeing so many people struggle with is the relationship aspect of things. And that, I mean that in an encompassing way, the relationship to ourselves, for example, our past life that we had before we woke up to climate change, so I don't know, jet setting around the world, flying, not having a care in the world. And now suddenly we kind of sort of have this huge awakening in a negative sense that, probably this isn't going to be continuable for the, long to very long term, this type of lifestyle. And so it's the relationship to ourselves, to our own past, that comes with shame and guilt and all of that. The relationship, of course, to maybe our children, like, what did I do bringing a kid into this world? How am I going to be explaining that to them in the future? Also relationship to maybe our husbands or wives who maybe aren't on the same page, who are thinking like, oh my God, what's going on with you? You're going to be depressed all day long now from now on. What's happening? We have a family life to manage. We have a job. We have a mortgage to pay. Get out of bed and stop crying. We need you here. You need to, be part of this family. We got to get life under control somehow. And of course, it's also, relationship to maybe friends, like extended families that don't really understand what you're talking about. When you try to talk to them about your emotions, no one's really on the same page. People see you as kind of this spoil sport of ruining Christmas dinner with your bad mood. And it's also the relationship to the rest of the world, people you don't know, to your government, your politicians, for not doing enough, to big businesses for poisoning the world for money. So there is this whole, let's say, it's difficult to say blame game and criticize, because I mean, of course, a lot of this is justified or will be justified, but still, what is it helping you? What is it serving you to be continuously 100% of the time focused on what other people are doing, in the sense that this is taking away all the energy and brain power and mental capacity, emotional capacity that you have, that you could focus on yourself, what you can do to help, rather than, spending time on trying to change everyone else's mind around and around climate change and behaving in a different way. So it's really these three things: emotional management, the action side of things, helping people identify something that they feel they can do and they can actually implement within their means, within their values, and also challenging them to do more than just, I don't know, turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth. I mean, we do need a bit more and from people at this point in the planet's history, let's say. And yeah, so and the relationships aspect of things. So those are the three biggies, I would say.
Yeah, and then another thing that came up for me while you were talking is this feeling that how much can I actually do, because I'm just one person.
Yeah, that's a
right?
big one. Yeah,
There's
exactly.
this huge feeling, and I know that I've chosen to, you know, create a podcast and try to speak to others. And I know that, I try to, I have reusable straw, and I try to be as eco-conscious as I possibly can and not use a lot of plastics, and make sure that, even before it was a big thing, but I had, the reusable bags, and I refused to take plastic bags.
Yeah.
Um, it's just this overwhelming feeling of like I'm not making a dent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also very common. And what I want to say to that is, it no one really should discount their power and their impact. Every little thing counts, and every little thing that you can go beyond and above what you are currently doing will be even better. So it's very good what you have just said that you are doing. I would challenge you, as I would like to challenge everyone else, to maybe look at other things that you can still do. In fact, it's very interesting because you mentioned living with less plastic. Of course, this is a huge problem, and I don't want to, minimize that. But specifically, living plastic free and living zero waste is what I see a very, very, let's say, hard thing to do in our modern societies. And interestingly enough, according to science, it's not under the top 10 things that we can do to actually reduce our impact. And interestingly enough, the biggest things, or the three biggest things that we can do to reduce our carbon footprint, is to reduce food waste. That's number one. Eat less meat. That's number two, or go vegan completely, like you have. And number three is to use only renewable energy. And interestingly enough, specifically the renewable energy part of that, like this part is, I mean, other than maybe, it maybe costs a little bit more according to your provider, and maybe it's not yet available for everyone at this point. But if it is available for you, it's just a matter of switching your contract. You just do it once and you're set forever, in the sense that you don't even have to change your lifestyle a lot. Just by making that happen, you will just make such a big impact already. So I would invite everyone to really have a look at your life as a whole, and not just focus on the, let's say, things like going plastic free and zero waste, which is very valuable and very good, and I'm really applauding everyone who does that. But there are other things that might be even easier to implement, that have an even bigger impact. And for everyone who is interested, I've actually put together a free guide to the 50 most effective things an individual can do to lower their carbon footprint. It's available for a download on my website. So for everyone who is struggling to find something, or who wants some inspiration, have a look at things, what they could do, and to make really a difference as an individual without having to go out on the streets and protesting and disrupting traffic and those things, but still make an impact with your means, with what you have available in terms of times and money. I would really invite you to get that guide and start implementing those things, because it's as I said, it's not always sort of the commonly known points that have the biggest impact.
Yeah, so I'm curious, for renewable energy, what do you recommend? What kind, because you said sometimes it's just a matter of switching a contract. I know that's something that's available. I live currently in Arizona, and we have sun all the time. So solar energy is very big here. But if someone doesn't live in a state or in an area where that's an option, what kinds of things can they look towards?
Well, I mean, I would encourage everyone to first check with their actual energy supplier, because maybe these energy companies are changing a lot as well, because actually renewable energy is the cheapest energy already available for everyone. And basically anything that is not coal or oil or gas is already making a difference in terms of carbon emissions. There is nuclear energy, which is carbon neutral. It's emissions free, but it comes with these like huge long-term problems of getting rid of, disposing of the nuclear waste. So I wouldn't really recommend to branch out into that. But if you have the means, if you have the infrastructure in terms of your own real estate, or like a house that you're living in and you have a big roof, consider buying solar panels to put up there, and you're going to be set for life, let's say, with your own renewable energy. And of course you need battery storage and all that. I'm not an engineer, so I can't really talk about the individual components that are necessary to make that happen. But wind energy, solar energy, water, hydrogen energy, all of those are fantastic sources of renewable energy, getting cheaper every day, because technical development, just the engineering is improving every day, and that's just a really good thing that you can do. And I think, I mean, of course it would depend for every country. I'm, for example, based in Germany. For us, there is just a website that you can go to, and it tells you which is the renewable energy supplier and which one is kind of more like a more classic, let's say. And you just this website basically does everything for you in terms of switching your contract over. So they end your existing contract and set up the contract with the new company. I'm sure potentially that there could be something similar in the States. I don't know. So maybe just a quick Google search would help here. I believe that there are already enough resources out there for everyone to, inform themselves where to find renewable energy. And if not, buy your own.
Yeah.
Of the means.
Yeah, I think in a lot of places in the United States, I feel like there isn't such a big awareness around climate change and renewable energy sources. So I think, doing a Google search, maybe going to local nonprofits and seeing what they recommend. I know that one of the easiest ones to do in the States, which it is, I mean, there is a cost, but it is solar panels, and they actually end up paying for themselves. And I think people would be really surprised to find out that you don't need as much sunlight as you think you need, right? Like, it does not have to be, the solar panels, I've heard, actually work better in the cold. So like, even if you don't live in like a really hot place, you can still use solar panels successfully and actually end up, I have a friend who put solar panels on, and she actually sells
exactly
it back to the energy company.
Exactly.
She produces, and she's in New York. So she produces enough in New York that she actually is able to send it back to the company and make money off of it. So
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think you don't even have to have a house really in order to be able I mean, at least here in Europe, they've been recently start selling like little sort of suitcase size solar panel that you can plunk on your balcony.
Oh,
Like,
cool.
so, I mean, it's not even that you have to have your own like big house or anything. Of course, this little solar panel won't cover your entire energy supply, of course, but I mean, it's going to be at least a contribution. And as you said, I'm pretty sure that I mean, as I said, I'm not an engineer, I'm a coach, so I don't know about prices and degrees and blah blah blah, but I'm pretty sure that the costs of these things are going to be earned back with a saved energy cost, and potentially even getting be paid for the energy that you're supplying to others with them within a couple of years, really. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to go back a little bit to the mental aspect.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way for someone to kind of process all of their anxiety and overwhelm and, you know, just feeling like out of control?
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, I can just give a little short overview here because this is a process that I'm teaching in depth in my
Mhm.
coaching in my programs. But what I want to say to that is one of the biggest aha moments I think for many people is that it's actually okay to feel anxiety and fear with regards to what is happening, and to actually allow that, to permit that to happen to you. Um, because anxiety is stemming from our brain, and our brain has been programmed, like from our evolutionary development, let's say, to produce anxiety as a survival mechanism for us. So our brain will go into anxiety mode every time it perceives there to be a danger to our survival. In our brain, this is sort of happening instinctively. This is the animal primal, let's say primal part of our brain that we are not consciously controlling. And this animal brain part of ours is not able to really distinguish in the second that it happens whether this danger that it perceives us to be in is actually like someone holding a knife to our throat in the moment, or a threat like climate change that is, of course, also going to be impacting our survival, but not today, unless, of course, you're in the middle of a forest fire or, washed away by a flood. But, you know, even reading an article on social media about a natural catastrophe that is happening on another part of the world, you are going to feel anxiety because that's your brain at work. And it's actually your brain doing what it's been programmed to do best. So if you are feeling anxiety or any other really strong and overwhelming emotion around climate change, just from sitting on your sofa and reading stuff on social media, this is a completely normal occurrence. It's completely healthy. It's completely human. In fact, I would say that everyone who is, in the know and aware of climate change and has read a little bit about all the facts and figures and what is going on, it would actually be strange to not be scared. So I just want to put that out there as a first thing, and to kind of take the stigma off feeling anxiety, to not have like need to blame yourself for being oversensitive or sort of discrediting your own emotions. They are healthy, they are natural, and they are human. So there is nothing wrong with anyone here that feels climate anxiety, and there is nothing wrong with feeling anxiety in and of itself as well, because it's a very normal emotion, and every human brain produces it for every single one of us at one point in our lives. Maybe another person might not feel that anxious about climate change, but they will feel anxious about losing their job or someone dying or whatever. I mean, we all feel anxiety at one point or another in our lives. So it's completely normal. And once you know that, like dealing with these emotions is really all about, being aware of that you are feeling them in the moment, analyzing what is happening for you in the moment, kind of looking at yourself from the outside a little bit, watching what is going on, distancing yourself a little bit from yourself so that you can take a step back if you want, also in like mentally from what is going on, and then just let everything be present for you that is present in that moment when you are feeling this emotion. Like there is nothing wrong again, everything is normal. And then another very big part of that is, it kind of ties in with, like, letting it be okay that you are feeling anxiety, because it's a natural brain product basically, is to actually accept that our lives aren't supposed to be 100%, shiny and rainbowy and glittery all the time.
Yeah.
It's more like, our lives, our human emotional experience is more likely to be 50-50, in terms of 50% negative and hard, and just feeling fear and anxiety and just really bad, and the rest is going to be, the other 50% is going to be happy and joyful. And let that be okay as well. We've been programmed by our society that we should be happy all of the time, and that on Instagram, for example, we don't see people having panic attacks or being sad even. So so we've been programmed to believe that the goal in life is to be happy all of the time, and that having negative emotions is a bad thing, and that it is something that we should get rid of as soon as possible. And I want to counter that and say it is a valuable and even necessary part of our emotional experience to also feel negative emotions, because we need the contrast to even recognize happiness. We couldn't know that we are happy when we have never felt unhappy. So
Yeah.
this acceptance part, I think, is also a very, very important point.
Yeah, and I think also the negative emotion, the feeling uncomfortable, is what drives us to change something. Because if we didn't feel upset about it, we wouldn't want to change it. We wouldn't have that desire to do
Yeah,
better. And
exactly.
so giving yourself the, giving yourself the opportunity to feel this way gives you an opportunity to do better with your life and your actions and how you move forward into the next step. So as far as that's concerned, what are, a couple of small things that people could do to just start to tip their toe into reducing their carbon footprint?
Yeah. I want to say, before I answer that, I would like to, just first of all, agree with you. I mean, without feeling uncomfortable about something, we would never have a motivation to change. But what I also want to say is that I talked before about accepting our emotions, our negative emotions, as a normal part of life, and accepting that we are feeling bad in a certain moment about, for example, climate change, does not mean that we have to accept climate change as well. So accepting the emotion about something is not the same as accepting the thing that we are feeling about, in the sense of that we are not allowed anymore to do anything about it. And in fact, changing, going out there, doing something that will help fight climate change is going to be so much easier for us, and more like, will come more naturally, and like it will be simpler and easier for us once we have gotten these emotions out of the way, in the sense of we have processed them. Because at the moment when we are in the thick of things emotionally, all this brain power and all this emotional energy, that we could have used to do something about climate change, is being tied down into feeling bad, and then feeling bad because we're feeling bad, and blaming ourselves for feeling bad, and all that kind of stuff. So we make it worse. We're not at 50-50 anymore. We are at 90% bad and 10% good, something like that. So the best way of that to get out of is, what I said before, to get, like, allow yourself to have these emotions first and foremost, to not make them a problem for you anymore, both that you have them and both how you feel with them. Realize that they are actually harmless. Emotion, like feeling the emotion, might be uncomfortable physically. You can get, I don't know, you might cry, you get red cheeks, or shiver, something like that, but that's really it. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to like seriously harm you. So you know actually allow that, let that happen to you for a moment, is going to be so much more beneficial than covering it up and bottling it up. And then, at some point we lose the power and the energy to keep it bottled up. And then it's going to be just burst forward and possibly wreak havoc in our lives. So let it be okay that we are feeling those emotions, and allow them, process them over and over again. It's something that you have to practice. And then the second big thing that I want to tell people, and this is something that most people sort of kind of look at me a little bit like, what, in the beginning, but the more you think about it, the more you will realize that this is true. And for me, it was the biggest game changer of my whole life ever, is to realize that you are actually producing, or every single one of us is actually producing our own emotions with the way we are thinking.
Yeah.
So what happens to us emotionally, how we feel, is not the product or the result of anything that is happening outside of us that we cannot control, such as climate change, what other people do or say, what the government does or doesn't do. Nothing of that is able to directly cause our emotions. Our emotions, how we feel about that, is determined by the way we are thinking about that. So the same external happening, the same external event or circumstance that happens to two different people, let's say, that are sitting in the same room, reading the same news article, let's say, they could have completely different emotional reactions to that. And the only reason that can happen is because it's not the article, it's not what they're reading that is responsible for the emotion. It's because they have different thoughts about it. And that is what is causing our emotions. So what that means is our thinking is responsible for how we feel. And since all our emotions are powering our actions, ultimately what we're thinking is responsible for how our lives are turning out to be for us. And that, on the one hand, means that we are responsible for our own problems in a way, because our thinking is kind of causing all of that. But we are also responsible, in a good sense, for everything that we have ever achieved in our lives. It's all a product of our thinking. So this is a positive and a negative thing as well, 50-50, as I said before. And once you've actually realized that really all boils down to the way you think about things, and then you realize that what you are thinking about something is something that you are choosing consciously or unconsciously, but it's still a choice, and a choice can be changed. You then realize that you can change your thinking about whatever is going on in the world.
Yeah.
And once you have really understood that, not just intellectually, but like from the bottom of your soul, that you are responsible for your own life, for whatever you're feeling, for whatever you're doing. It all comes down to you. It all starts with you. This is the most powerful and resilient and empowered state of being. And you get all your power back right in that very moment that you realize that is the case. So think about that. It's your thinking that is causing your emotions, just you. It's only you who are doing that. You are responsible for everything, and everyone else is responsible for their emotions. So you can leave whatever other people do and say with them. It's not your fault or your responsibility if other people feel bad about something. So that really, for me, was the biggest game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of, climate change anxiety, what would be the best way to snap yourself out of it? Is it kind of turning it into what can I do? Or, what, like, tell me the thought process. Like, let's say I'm having an overwhelming thought. I'm thinking, I've just read an article. I am going into a downward spiral.
Yeah.
What is the thing that I should be doing to kind of snap myself out of it and reframe it so that I can take action?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I would say is, first, get the emotions under control in this processing fashion that I talked about. So step one, become aware of what is going on for you emotionally. Give a label to that, give a name to that, maybe if you can. Step two, observe what that emotion is doing for you physically in your body, like see yourself from the outside, and realize what is going on for you, what this emotion is doing in your body. Then allow all of that to wash through your body naturally. It will dissipate eventually. And then I would say try to find the thought behind this emotion. Like if you're feeling anxiety and fear in that very moment, try to identify the thought that was causing that. Most likely, like specifically with the example of climate change and reading an article, and the thought, the feeling is something of fear and anxiety and panic even. The thought is going to be something that has induced this fear and this panic and this anxiety. Maybe something like, I don't know, we are all going to die, or my kid's going to have a horrible life, something like that. And then just stay with that thought for a moment. And then we can then start to question this thought. Is this really true? Is that really what science and everyone on the planet is telling us to give up, for example? Is it really like is really the overwhelming majority of people out there telling us to give up now? Is that helpful? Or even if they are telling us to do that, do I want to do that? I don't have to. I can decide to keep on fighting just for the sake of, not giving up and for doing my part to that. And I know it is very daunting, and the scientific evidence is pointing to, a very rough future, but still, now is the time to not give up, because actually giving up and doing nothing and huddling in fear and drawing back into the cave out of anxiety, out of panic, that is actually the only thing, the one and only thing that is guaranteed to get us into trouble. Because if we all stop doing anything today, we are guaranteed to go over, I don't know, 7 degrees or whatever the worst case scenario is. So whatever you can do to get yourself out of the funk, and find something that you can do. Ideally, one of the more effective things that have a big impact on your carbon footprint, especially for people living in the United States. You guys have statistically still one of the biggest carbon footprints per person as a nation. So what you guys in the US do matters the most, like globally speaking, or among the most globally speaking. So it really depends on every one of you guys personally. I know there is a lot of discussion around, okay, what should I as an individual do if there are 100 companies that are producing, I don't know, whatever, 95% of all the world's emission. Yeah, that may be true, but I mean, look at what these companies are. 90% of them are fossil fuel companies. And why are they having that much power? Because we are consuming their oil and driving cars with diesel and so I don't think that we as individuals can take ourselves completely out of the equation and say, okay, this is something that governments and businesses have to sort out, and I can just keep on doing what I do. I think both sides have to do that, and there is a certain, let's say, movement also necessary from individuals that will actually tell to governments and to businesses that this is not okay to continue like they are. So we need everyone on board. So whatever you can do as an individual, and even if it's the smallest thing that you start with that can then develop into something bigger, the better it is. And no one got perfect on the first try. No one, became a marathon runner after a week of training. And the same is true with, living more sustainably and implementing things that lower the carbon footprint. You have to start with one little thing. And once you've gotten the confidence and done that and gotten that sort of sorted out, the next thing to do will be so much easier. So those are things that I would say. Process the emotion first, and then once you've kind of boiled yourself down, let's say, to a level where you can actually, think clearly again, look at what is the thought causing the emotion that you had in the moment, and then start to maybe look for other things to think, or so kind of, like actually poking holes into that thought. I would say, is that really true? Can I reframe that in a different way that is more helpful to me, that is serving me better. Because let's face it, what is it serving you or your loved ones or your family if you are breaking down in the corner and crying and being stuck in fear and paralyzed and not being able to enjoy your life anymore? You're not helping the planet, you're not taking any sort of action, your family's going to suffer, you're not there for your family. So that's helping no one. So is there something that you can do, that you can switch in your mind? And I mean, of course, that is where people like me, coaches that are trained in mindset work and thought process and neurological programming, where we come in and come in to help. So you don't have to go all alone. That's also what I would say.
So I have another question. This might not be something you can answer, but what about having conversations with people who deny climate change? Because I feel like that is a topic that when it starts to happen, it gets me upset and angry. And like, how do we have those conversations and be effective?
Well, I would say the most important thing to remember is that, anger and blame and judgment and criticism being directed at the other person is not going to get you anywhere. Right. So I think that's one of the most important things to remember, that, people don't, well, I mean, maybe there are exceptions, but I would say the large majority of people who are denying climate change either don't know enough about it, or they kind of have an idea about it, but it's just emotionally too taxing for them to be able to admit that. And so they'd rather not want to look at it. And they don't want to look at this black abyss of emotional upheaval that you undoubtedly feel normally, at least if you are a normal human being and your brain works normally and you have this anxiety instinctive reaction that I talked about in the beginning, then it's going to be absolutely inevitable that you feel panic and fear and all of that in the beginning, before you know how to handle that, when you hear about like the real impacts of climate change and you take them seriously for the first time. So I would say these people are not doing anything because, like, they are not denying climate change because they are evil in and of itself, in like the large majority of cases, I would say, but it's just for them a protection mechanism. They are protecting themselves from this emotional impact. So if you are now coming at them and hitting at them with, I don't know, like raging at them and screaming at them and doing all of that, what is going to happen? They are either going to fight back, so you end up in this huge argument that is not leading anywhere, or you're going to sort of push them more into their, let's say, cave of, okay, I don't want to even look at that stuff. So it's not gonna produce any sort of proactive like voluntary reaction of, okay, I want to learn more about this. What is going on here? There must be something at this. So think about the mechanism. Thinking causes emotions and emotion power action. So what is the action that you want these people to take? So what is the emotion that they would most probably need to feel in order to, take that action? It's probably going to be something like empower. Like, let's say you want to get, I don't know, let's say your neighbor, you want to get your neighbor to, do something about climate change, like buy a solar panel or whatever that they need to budget for, let's say. So what you want to, your neighbor needs to feel something like motivation, determination. I can do this. Okay, I'm going to be, I'm going to be energized. I'm going to be excited. I have to be excited about doing this because this is going to save me money. This is going to be good for the planet. This, so all these proactive emotions that you need to make that happen, those are not going to be produced by someone who feels shamed, who feels raged at, who feels guilty, so making people feel guilty or sort of coming at people with something that is likely to make them think, oh my God, I'm being attacked here or something, is not gonna produce anything useful in terms of them going out and informing themselves. So the best thing would be to inspire thinking in them, that is going to produce, hopefully for them, positive emotions like proactive emotions like, determination and motivation, as I said. And that, I mean, of course, it will depend on the individual, but probably listening to them, like trying to understand where they are coming from, where they are right now, what their personal and individual concerns about climate change are, would be a more useful approach, I would say, than getting angry at them and trying to wake them up and kind of shake them physically.
Yeah.
I would say that is a more. I mean, it's the most difficult thing in the world to do. I know that, and I mean, I'm catching myself so many times as well that I'm just so angry at, I don't know, governments for not being able to sort that out. But again, if I'm blaming and criticizing and running around shouting at people and just being angry at everyone, it's most probably not going to produce the result that I want in the end. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about is the climate change conference.
Mm-hmm.
So I had recently read something, which actually there are more representatives from companies than that companies that are fueling the climate disasters than there are actual representatives from countries.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? And I know, what are your thoughts on the conference in general?
I mean, my thoughts on the conference in general. I mean, I know it has a bad reputation for not doing anything really in terms of lowering the emissions, but still, I would say that, having these conferences is still a necessary symbol for everyone else, that, people are still talking to each other, and this is still a global, at least try to make something happen. And of course, I mean, the fact that fossil fuel companies are attending these conferences in even larger numbers than the country delegations itself is of course a very worrying incidents. If you wanted to, you could see something positive in it as well, in the sense that if so many fossil fuel companies need to send that many people to that conference, it means they are scared. They are scared about their business models, and that is, for me at least, a good thing, in the sense that it shows that there is progress, that there is societal movement, political movement growing against fossil fuels. And I don't know whether you've heard that there are already, I think, 2 island states, and probably even more governments by now, that are openly and publicly endorsing a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, like a sort of the anti-nuclear contract. And it's now there is also no, there is this like international agreement against nuclear weapon use. There is now, a growing movement to also have an international agreement against the use of fossil fuels. So no new gas and new oil. And that is one of the things that we absolutely have to get done, at least according to science, if we want to keep global warming under 2 degrees. So of course it's horrible that there are fossil fuels companies and representatives at these conferences, but I still would say that's no reason to despair or to not have these conferences anymore. So these conferences are still valuable, and I mean, there is another 2 days to go, so let's see what comes out of it.
Yeah. And what are the things that we can, because it's really important to have the awareness, right?
Yeah.
Because if they wouldn't have the conference, there would not be the general awareness. It would not be in the news. People would not be talking about it, thinking about it. Just the fact that I saw that article is important, because that means somebody's talking about it.
Yeah.
What potentially do you think could come out of the conferences?
Well, I mean, one of the hopes that I have is that there is a renewed push for, countries working together worldwide to, keep emissions down and to exit, for example, fossil fuels. So if that treaty actually materialized in the coming weeks or months, that would be a huge success. And I think that now, from what I'm observing, there really is this huge shift starting to, mount up to like this really big transformation also of, the way we do business as humanity. I mean, there is so much, I mean, of course there's a lot of greenwashing going on, and I'm aware of all of that, but still, I'm choosing actively. That is my own way of managing my thinking and my mindset around climate change, is I'm choosing actively to look at the positive developments that are happening. Of course, there is this panic inducing stuff as well, but as I said, if I'm looking at too much of that, all that is going to happen for me is, feeling panic and anxiety and all of that. And that's not going to be helpful, neither for me nor for my clients. So I'm choosing to look at the transformation that is starting to, materialize right now. And there is so much going on in terms of, for example, the shift to renewable energy is getting mind bending proportions, growing every day. I think I've seen an article recently that we've already crossed the 5% adoption threshold for electric vehicles, I think worldwide. So, this is just going to be growing from here, and it's the same with renewable energy. At the moment, it's cheaper to build new renewable energy systems than to keep existing fossil and coal fuel systems running, even the most modern types of them. So it's an economic thing by now. It's not a political thing anymore. It's, companies are deciding against nuclear and fossil, starting to decide against nuclear and fossil and coal and fossil, excuse me, because it's economically sensible and making sense. And that is something that I think wouldn't have happened without a worldwide push for these things. Yeah.
Yeah. So if people want to learn more and get in touch with you, how do they do that? And what kind of programs and coaching do you have?
Yeah, thank you. So people can find me under my handle on Instagram and all social media, which is Eco Anxiety Coach. So I'm the Eco Anxiety Coach on Instagram, for example, and that's also my URL. So ecoanxietycoach.com. And that's how people can find out about me and work with me. What I'm currently offering is one-on-one coaching packages, where I'm tailoring my support to people's individual needs around anything in the realm of climate change. It can be the emotional side of things, it can be the mindset shifting, it can be the thought work, it can be, also sort of, how to find what I can do and how to get that actually on the street in terms of goal setting, productivity, time management. How can I fit that into my lifestyle in a good, productive way? And also this relationship management and relationship coaching that I managed in the beginning. That's also a big part of that. So I'm doing all of that, both in my individual coaching sessions with clients, and then I'm also offering an online coaching program that is called Overcoming Eco Anxiety. I'm going to be probably relaunching that at the beginning of next year. So people can already sign up for the waitlist for the next round now on my website. And that is a group coaching program where I'm also going to be addressing those three blocks, let's say, of problems or issues, like the emotional side of things, the relationship aspect of things, and the mindset work and the action part. But I mean, of course, it's a group coaching program, so there won't be this individual tailored one-to-one confidential approach to things like there is in the one-on-one coaching. So for the moment, for the time being, those are the two options: either one-on-one coaching or a group program. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you mentioned you actually have something happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, tomorrow it's going to be at 10 p.m. European time. I think it's going to be in the afternoon US time. It depends on the various time zones that you guys have. I'm offering a 1-hour free webinar, a free workshop that is called Processing Climate Pain. So you can go to my Instagram and find that and find the link to sign up. So my Instagram handle, Eco Anxiety Coach, that's where I'm advertising this free workshop, and it's going to be just a free 1 hour gathering, let's say, get together of people who are feeling concerned about climate change and who want to learn how to process their emotions in a better way, how to actually practice that. We're going to be doing like a live processing session tomorrow,
Okay.
and who want to learn how to, reframe their emotions into something more productive, building resilience, building empowerment, so that people can regain their quality of life emotionally and preserve their mental and emotional health tomorrow. So everyone's, of course, more than welcome to attend. It's a free
Yeah,
workshop.
and is that interactive? Or are people going to be able to interact with you?
Totally. Yeah, yeah. Of
Okay.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So I hope everyone signs up for that and learns more. We're coming up on an hour. Is there any final nuggets of wisdom that you would like to leave us with?
Yeah, I would like to encourage everyone to, inform themselves about climate change and about what is happening out there, because this really is the most crucial decade in human history. I mean, there is no way to overstate what is needed this decade. So I really want to encourage everyone to Google, the COP27 conference that is going on right now, to inform yourself about climate change, about what is causing it, like looking at different sources, scientific resources, more than just sort of some obscure blogs or stuff where you don't know where the source is coming from. And then, yeah, know that you are not alone in this anxiety that you are probably then going to be feeling. And yeah, and know that there are people like me, and of course a lot of other resources out there that can actually help with that. But this is yeah, I mean, this is the most crucial time for all of us. So it really is a responsibility, I think, for everyone to at least know what's going on. And then, of course, if you then decide to not take any action for whatever reason, then that's your decision. But if you are feeling like someone who wants to better themselves and better, leave the world a better place than you found it, basically, then, there really is a lot to know about this and a lot to do about this as well. And, I'm here to help. Other people are here to help. So, I'm sure there will be something for you that you can find to do, that will make a difference. And whatever thing you find and that you can do is better than you not doing anything at all. That is also something that I want to leave you
Yeah,
guys here with. Um, that is, in a sense, not to say that it's going to be enough to just do the little things, but at least starting with a little thing and then get the ball rolling from there
yeah,
is kind of, I think, the way to go. And I mean, I can say from my own experience, once you start, it gets easier and easier and easier over time. I mean, for example, myself, I've transformed from a really shopaholic, fashion crazy, weekend shopping to kill time person to someone who is so minimalistic, in all of that, and I'm not missing anything. In fact, I'm happier than I was ever before. And that's another thing that I can leave people with. What is the actual emotional reason behind so many things that we are doing? It's
yeah,
probably, like, if we question that, we'll probably realize that we don't really need maybe so many things in our lives that we are currently having. So we can live other lifestyles that are maybe less impactful and be even happier.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I hope that everyone also takes advantage of your freebie. I will post the links, but Katharina did provide us with a free guide, which is the ultimate guide to reducing your carbon footprint and the 15 most effective things you could do today without having to significantly change your lifestyle. So I think that's super important. If you're looking for just an easy way to get started and something that will not impact your lifestyle, because I think that's the biggest problem for most people
Yeah.
is like, but I still have to have a car, I still have to do this, I
Yeah.
still have to, I don't want to give up the life that I've created for myself. But these are ways that you don't have to give that up. So
Yeah.
please take advantage of that. Thank you so much, Katharina. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for being there, and thanks for letting me be there. It was great to talk to you.
Great.
All right.
Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.